There are 3 Monday questions on your JLPT exam about vocabulary. First, we'll ask you to fill in the gap with an appropriate word. The second one will give you a sentence, and you will have to choose a word with the closest meaning to the one in a sentence. And the third one will give you a word, and you will have to choose a sentence in which the word works the best. Hi friend, Potato here, and I'm taking my JLPT and free exam on the December 1st. Today, we continue talking about JLPT exam and specifically the vocabulary portion of it. So, if you haven't watched my previous video about kanji, go do that first and come back here. Today, I want to talk about the JLPT scoring system and then about my approach to vocabulary, books, and strategies. As promised, let's break down the scoring system. The format, question types, and scoring slightly changes depending on the level. And since I'm taking N3, let's focus on that. If you took N5 or N4 before, you know that there are 3 parts or sections in the exam. There are only 2 in N1 and N2. They are all separated by breaks in between. 3 sections are vocabulary and kanji, grammar and reading, and listening. Although these sections are the same as the lower levels, the scoring has slightly changed. Unlike in an N5 and N4, reading is scored separately. You can get a total of 60 points for language knowledge, kanji and vocabulary, and grammar. 60 points for reading and 60 points for listening. Although you do grammar and reading together, they are scored separately this time. Language knowledge questions give roughly 1 point per question. However, more than a half of the listening gives 2 to 3 points per question, and reading questions give you between 3 to 4. So it's extremely important that you work on your reading for N3. Also, overall pass marks have increased. You need to get over 95 points out of 180 to pass N3 exam. However, to qualify for that, you also have to get over 1/3 of questions in each section correct. You have to get at least 19 points per section to pass. So even if you got 60 points in vocabulary and grammar, 60 points in reading, but you got less than 19 points on listening, you will fail. Pass rate is surprisingly low, which to be honest confuses me, but it has been between 30 to 40% on average depending on the level, year and location. You probably think that since I'm such a big supporter of immersion method, I will tell you that the best way to learn vocabulary is through manga. Wrong. Manga is quite useless in helping you with your JLPT vocabulary. But obviously, it's great if you're learning Japanese for fun. Sure, you will see some words that can be in your exam, but usually manga's vocabulary is tightly tied to the theme. If you really feel like you want to use manga or anime to keep vocabulary fresh in your head, look for more mundane and everyday type of mangas. At the end of the day, it's not a study method I would recommend. The worst thing you can do when getting ready for an exam, especially when you're tight on time, is to allocate your time on the wrong thing. Meticulously studying vocabulary is the wrong thing. Before, I used to think that vocabulary is the first and most important thing I should learn, as words are the building blocks of the language, and how can I even attempt grammar or reading if I don't know the words? So I spend a lot of time making sure I know every single word. My perspective has completely changed this year. The bottom line is you should definitely attempt grammar and reading before you know every single word. No matter how much you study the vocabulary, since no one has an exact list of words that will appear on the exam, you will encounter the words you do not know during your exam, whether you like it or not. And you could freak out or hyper-focus on them and forget everything else, or you will figure out your way around them and move on. So why don't we, instead of staring at vocabulary list day after day, do our best to figure out the unknown words as we go on the spot? Yes, it might be challenging at first if you just finished N4, but closer you are getting to your N3 exam, easier it will be. So my study strategy is to leave the vocabulary book until last, focus on grammar, reading and listening first, and fill in the gaps with vocabulary book at the end. However, if this stresses you out too much, you can always do your vocabulary book alongside other skills, but at a much slower pace. Next time you are doing a grammar exercise or a reading, do not freak out about unknown words. Underline or highlight them, try answering the question to the best of your ability, and then just add the new word into your vocabulary list of flashcards and review them. I hope it's clear that I'm not saying avoid learning vocabulary. Rather, Leave the vocabulary books until the end and learn vocabulary slowly as you go through other skills. Graded readers are another good way of slowly building up your necessary word bank while staying within the end-free vocabulary. But be time sensitive about when you start doing it. A few weeks before exam might be a bit too late for a gradual learning. Books. Let's talk books. I have 3.5 books that focus on vocabulary. Nihongo Somatome. I forgot to mention it last time, but this book series focuses on preparing you for your exam in 6 weeks by doing 2 pages a day. I actually really like book because of the pictures they use. I feel like it makes people and me remember better and more engaged when learning. However, this book is only amazing if you already know at least half of the vocabulary. I do not think it would be effective for you to learn 20 to 40 words a day. But if someone asked me for a recommendation of an exam preparatory and review book, I'll recommend this one. 2000 Essential Vocabulary for JLPT and Free. Again, it is a great supplementary material if you're already familiar with the majority of vocabulary. It has an example sentence for each word to add context and has a red screen to help you revise. Although I find repetition of some words from the N4 version annoying. If the book covered all the words from N5 to N3, that would make sense, but it doesn't. Give me either 2000 new words or I want my money back. Shinkansen Master Goi. This book is quite decent for learning vocabulary, even if you are not planning on taking N3 exam. Besides usual JLPT style multiple choice questions, it provides other exercises every chapter to help you get familiar with the new words, remember them, and be able to use them in the correct way. Translations are sometimes lacking context, to be honest. Nihongo Power Doriru is the book I'm using a lot right now. I already showed it in the last video, but let's look inside now. It covers all style of questions from section 1, kanji and vocabulary, in 30 10-minute quizzes. And it offers you 10 more, very targeted 3-minute quizzes. I think it's a great book, and my tip is to make sure to translate every single word you do not know or understand, not only the correct answers when you make a mistake. Since we're on the topic of targeted practices, I bet there are a few aspects of vocabulary that you feel particularly unsure about, and so do I. I struggle with onomatopoeias and other adverbs. I can remember a few that I come across often, but that's pretty much it. And also the pairs of transitive and intransitive verbs. Yet, I'm not going to stress about that. Even if I get these questions wrong, it will be only 2 points max. And as I told you, it is important you allocate your time correctly. Last time, I spent significant brain power distinguishing Temo and Noni grammar, as well as To, Tara, and Ba form. And then there was 0 questions about it on the exam. I'm absolutely not doing that again. I also wanted to mention katakana words. There might be 1 question about them, and they can pop up here and there. Do not stress about them too much. If you are an English speaker, majority of them come from English, so just try to read them slowly. And rather than remembering the words that are similar to English, focus on the words that are different to English, like homo. It doesn't mean home, you know? The last piece of advice I want to give you in this video is when you're filling out exam answer sheet, which is a paper with circles you need to shade, do not question your knowledge and judgment. Your brain will look at the answer sheet and tell you that there is no way that there could be 4 numbered 2s in a row, or whatever. Or like, it can't be 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. You do not know that. Trust your first judgment. But obviously, double check in case you circled the wrong number. Thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, and leave your questions or advice about JLPT in the comments. Bye! There is a bit less than a month left until my exam now, and I wanted to give you a bit of an update and insight about how I'm doing so far. I kinda finished the kanji book, and I'm halfway through the grammar book. I'm learning new points every day and revising the old ones by making flashcards of things I don't remember. I look over them before bed. Apparently, this will help me learn better. I also started the reading book, and unfortunately, I might have to wait until 2 weeks before the exam to start the listening book. Do not do that, like me. Start it now. I also took the second mock exam. Haven't finished it yet, to be honest. However, so far, language knowledge is the same as the previous try. Reading, I haven't completed yet, and listening is absolutely disgusting. And I'm unsure whether it's my inability to focus or lack of knowledge or both. I will be extremely happy if I manage to get over 50% correct on the exam.